Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. Yes, indeed, we are looking back on what was a slightly curtailed weekend of racing action. And of course, having missed last week, we're going to look back at the previous week's action from Shelbourne Park 3 major finals look back on. I'm joined as always by the exiled Dub Tommy Lyons, and we're going to kick off proceedings because at Dundalk on Saturday night, we saw just the most exceptional renewal of the time Dundalk International. Tommy, it was a race to savour, it was a cracking contest. Wiki Ned, the international raider, played his part, perhaps slightly unlucky in running, but you have to say the cheap sandwiches fully deserved to land a big prize, €20,000 going his way. And it didn't look very likely going into the opening corner.
No, it didn't, and I think that's something I hope it's not it's not a follow from Toaster, but he's just not breaking as well as he can, and he was last actually to react cheap sandwiches. It was just a lovely bit of tracking down out of the second bend and down to the third bend to take over the lead. But have you ever seen a race at that level where like they could have carried a kayak, the whole lot of them over on their shoulders all the way around, like there's six of
It's
them?
not.
This
It's
is
not. It's
unbelievable.
not. It's not the expression what I've heard of before. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no, no,
you could
no,
have
no.
covered them
You're,
with a
you're
couple
thinking
of
about blankets.
details,
Yeah,
is
you're
what
thinking
we
about
would have said
blankets.
back in the day.
They
It
were
was an
that close.
unbelievable.
They really two by two formation. It was mad, and there was like if there was a hard luck story in the race, and I'm not sure it was a hard luck story, but I came away with more respect for Balnabola Joe than I had before. And I
Yeah.
always thought he was a very good dog. Don't get me wrong, but I just thought, I mean, he was a little bit squeezed out early. He slightly outpaced by cheap sandwiches into the bend, very slightly. Okay, but that's you're talking about one of the top early pacers in the country. And then he got kind of not done because there wasn't a lot of trouble in the race at all, but just got a little bit pushed wide at the first bend. And I thought, well, he'll finish last now. And showed a great attitude to kind of get involved in it down and to be beaten only what a half length in the short head. But like it's two lengths from first to last. I mean, it was a remarkable race. Sometimes you have a dog that's flying from 8 lengths off the pace to be beaten 2 lengths or whatever, might be finishing last, and you kind of catch an eye catcher. They were just all together in formation the whole way around the track. It was a remarkable race at the level. It really was. You could expect maybe the odd time in a graded race, but for it to be that tight, it got to show you that the field is well picked.
Yeah, this was one of those races where the six sets of connections did what they could. Like even the two outsiders of party, Delro Duke and Lemon Joey, both went up strongly in the middle of the track. Both were prominent into the opening corner. Wiki Ned actually went up best of all. He's into a narrow lead on the opening corner, but his lack of experience at Dundalk was what cost him. He moved off that opening bend. He bumped three, which was Delro Duke, and he in turn infected Lemon Joey. All of a sudden, on the outside, Balnabola Joe was left short of room. Cheap sandwiches forced wide, and Callaway Kinnegar got a glorious run up the inside. Now, this probably set up the race in terms of a contest because as he attempted to get through on the inside off the second bend, himself and Wiki Ned probably brushed shoulders slightly. But then, I'm going to say about 25 strides later, there was a little bit more of a bump, and Wiki Ned seemed to lose a half a stride, two strides, or a stride, and all of a sudden, Cheap Sandwiches and Balnabola Joe were advancing. They showed great pace down the back straight, has to be said. Cheap Sandwiches drove the third bend like a greyhound that well knew what it was about. You know what I mean? He got to the front, and thereafter he was always going to be very hard to beat. Wiki Ned again got a little bit tight for room on the inside. He ran on to finish a very good second. Balnabola Joe third. Callaway Kinnegar, you went from expecting him nearly at the second bend to win, just finding himself with no room with Wiki Ned where he was. He charged into the escape, actually went clear into the escape. So every dog ran their race, and I suppose yeah, we can't say that the wrong dog didn't win it. You know what I mean? In terms of his class and what he's been showing and how close he's gone in a derby and an English derby, Cheap Sandwiches certainly deserve this. And I think I still think probably the right dog won it in the sense where not everything went right for him either, Tommy. As you say, he didn't get this kick he needed. Like he's coming back to a new track, having been in Toaster. They trialed him over two bends rather than four bends, very different traps, very different noises. And when he came out of traps, I was gone. I said, "There's no chance he can win from there." Now he found a way, and the good ones find a way, Tommy.
Yeah, that's the truth of it. Like I still can't believe I said at the time, I can't I can't believe having watched the English Derby final and then not bother to wait for the result properly. If you know the first three that cheap sandwiches wasn't in it. I thought he was second. I honestly thought he was second. So
Yeah.
I think he deserves a little bit of luck. I'd say he had a look around to see where Buckett's Diamond was when he lined up the other night though. Just to say, what? Hold on a second, I might have a chance here tonight. because every time it doesn't matter. In general, Bacchus Diamond has won the races he's been involved in, but even in the English Derby, he managed to find a way to finish in front of him. So, I think without him, his kennel companion in the race, it was what I thought was an opportunity, but it was a tricky one because Ballinabullo Joe, who was a big early pacer, was in five. That's kind of what was tempering me saying that I was fancying Cheap Sam just strongly in the race. I fancied him to win it, but I thought he'd find a way maybe. But it turned out to be, it can be like a Dundalk International. It can be you can get outsiders running really big races, or dogs you don't expect to run really big races, doing that and just breaking and taking to the track and all those sorts of things. It's what's unique about it because we don't see a lot of these dogs in Dundalk a lot of the time, and there's a lot of money to be played for. So you tend to get a very strong field. Like Wiki Ned ran a cracker. Ballinabola Joe, as I said already, I thought if there was a hard luck story, maybe it was him. Callaway Kinnegar, um, it's hard to say. I'd say an overhead camera would reveal a lot, or a camera straight down the back straight would tell you an awful lot about that race for Callaway
Yeah.
Kinnegar, because I've got a feeling that Wiki Ned, having come off the first bend slightly,
Came straight
was
came straight back in off the second bend.
well. He was more than just straight back in. I think he was tending to move in the whole time, and he kind of sensed the presence of Callaway Kinnegar. So he didn't make. He was a clever tracker. He didn't cut across him, but I think he was kind of tending to edge in the whole way up the back straight, which is preventing Callaway Kinnegar from making that run. Now you might say, if you want to be harsh, you say, he's got to make that. Callaway Kinnegar's got to make that with power and pace and determination. But I'm just not so sure. Wiki Ned is a fast dog, and it's not going to be easy to get past him down the back straight. Um, I mean, the fact that Chief Sanders was able to get by him at the third bend by a neck or half a length, no more, and was all out to hold on. I mean, tell you how good Wiki Ned is too. So look, it's a really good race. Even Lemon Joey showed lovely pace into the first bend. He's just, I think his run the other night is where he is. I think when we get into the Derby, that's the exact same thing is going to happen to him. I think he's good enough to win Derby heats. Don't get me wrong, but I think the same thing is going to happen to him when he gets into that bend. There'll be something just going a little bit quicker, accelerating in and around the corner or whatever else, and he might just find himself losing a little bit of ground. But he's capable of winning Derby heats. But I just think at that level, that's the type of thing that can happen to him. He's
Yeah,
he's he's,
it
he's
has
already
it has to
popped
be
up in.
said. Has to be said. This was a return to the glory days for the international. In recent years, they've sort of struggled to get the real choice of numbers. Now this year they had like any amount of entries. As it was, a few dropped out in the days and weeks ahead of the potential, unbelievable classic that we had. Now, as it was, we had a top class field, but it's great to see, people been forced to make choices as regards the Dundalk International Field, and I think they made the right choices, given the remaining dogs that were left. I know Hope's Teddy wasn't there, the Easter Cup champion. I know Pat has had his own little problems with that dog, Hope's Teddy, and perhaps with Balnabola Joe there. Maybe he made preference for Baldabola Joe, which is pretty understandable. I agree with you. I think my thoughts on Baldabola Joe. I think his reputation was enhanced. I think he's shown now that he's more than capable of contesting against the very very best. And getting over that first night or two in Shelbourne Park, we know he's run the place very very well before. If he does get more consistency at the boxes, I think he's going to be right up there in the Derby. I think
Well,
he's going to be amongst the four or five best dogs in the competition.
I think I came away the other night thinking he's an absolute certainty to win early round heats, at the very
Mm.
least, because I think when it's a little less hot, um, he will fly around in front. He'll break better than that. He'll show brilliant early paces we've seen him showing in the past. He will lead early round fields, bar that he's desperately lucky to come up against something, at the very top of the market. He'll lead early rounds of derbies, heats, and scoot around and do fast time. So yeah, where he'll go in terms of the latter stages, I'm not quite sure. Is he good enough to be a derby finalist? I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I think that'll come. I think he's improving all the time, and it is the pace he showed in the early rounds of English Derby, and even the other night, was just enough to suggest to me that he deserves to be in the top four or five in the betting, going forward. It is a situation where Jimmy Fennick has already hinted that Wiki Ned is going to go to the Irish Derby. He said
Mm.
that you only get a chance every now and again. I suppose the exploits of March on Freddie, which he did touch upon last year, have sort of given those in the UK sort of just reason to think that there is a chance of going deep into the competition. And, Wiki Ned, we've seen from him the other night, he can start, he can stay. He won the 3 steps to victory the previous weekend in Sheffield. So stamina is certainly not going to be the issue for the 550 yards. He won 3 or 4 Category 1 competitions last year. He's built for a Shelbourne Park test. And listen, when it comes down to it, he may find one or two too sharp, no question about it, much like Marchand Freddie last year. But I'll tell you one thing, the competition will be much better for him.
Oh, definitely. I do encourage anybody to come over and take a chance. Look. I think they don't need me telling you. You do need a bit of early pace. I mean, the stamina is great and all that to qualify. You do need that bit of early pace because we saw what Martin Freddie did in the early rounds last year, and he's right up there with the fastest dogs in training. But by God, would he frustrate the life out of you because he's that good. I
Yeah.
mean, we were talking about the pick in the international field. What a great problem it is to decide whether you want to run in a one-off 20 grand race, a 20 grand to the winner race or not. It's a nice position to be in, but the likes of Wiki Ned, if he can break like that in Shelbourne Park and hold the position early, yeah, he might get a little bit outpaced in mid race and then be staying on again. That's fine. But once you can get yourself into position early, you can advance quite a long way through the competition when you have ability like he has. Martin Freddie was like, I'd say, I'd have him right up there, the top 3 or 4 fastest greyhounds in training. But my God, I definitely have him at the very top for most frustrating because when you have ability like that, you really want to see it come out in a derby. You want to see it, coming out on top in a derby. Phenomenally fast dog, but just frustrate the life out of you.
Yeah, I know they've had 1 or 2 issues with him, and including last year's Irish
Mm.
Derby, he wasn't fully right. By the time he got knocked out at the semi-final stages. But yeah, listen, they're the type of dogs you want to see coming over to Ireland. Dogs that can really sort of hold their own against the best. And I'm not sure Wiki Ned will be getting outpaced down the back straight against our best. I think his problem is going to probably be into the opening corner, just
Early,
against the
okay.
real flying early speedsters. But I'll tell you something: if he does get on the bunny, he's going to have to take a good one to beat him. And we are in a situation where all 6 dogs that ran the Dundalk International, you would suspect, will line up in the Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby. All of a sudden, it's starting to come into a lovely position where we can start talking about the Derby. It's only a matter of weeks away at this point, and yeah, there's every strong, like last year we spoke about the established dogs and it was going to be one of the youngsters. This year I wouldn't be so sure now. There's a lot of fast established dogs going around still in great form, as well as a lot of the youngsters coming through. The youngsters probably need to get their backside in gear if they're going to keep up with the established dogs, to be truthful. Just a very, very talented field looking forward for the Derby.
I do think there are enough good youngsters in there at the moment that can get in amongst it. Whether they
Hmm.
can win the derby this year, I don't know. Maybe they can. I'm not ruling it out. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to. I'm definitely not going to be running down Bacchus Diamond. He's a superstar, but like there's just he might come back to Shelbourne Park and be absolutely unbeatable, which I kind of hope he would. To do 2 derbies would be phenomenal.
No,
But
there will.
but
There's never
but
going to be more interest in a one-off race than when Bucco's Diamond returns to Shelbourne Park for
yeah,
a race. Be
yeah.
it before the Derby in a prep race or in that first round heat. There is never going to be more interest just to see how he handles that first 15, 20 yards and how he goes.
Apart from giving you a great derby, which this year's derby, English derby, was a great derby. With my opinion on the final itself, it's just a shame that it's just form just got thrown on his head, and not with the winner, but just the whole race. Everything that you expected to happen didn't happen. But it was a great derby up to that, to my mind. But it gives you that, but it also plants a little seed of doubt about about greyhounds when they come away from Toaster. And then what we do is we go, it was Toaster, so don't worry about it. It'll be different dog coming back to Shelbourne. And we always assume that it might be, but there's just a little seeded out all the time. So it might give a little bit of hope to the younger generation coming through their trainers and connections that, hey, you know what, maybe we can reach that height. Maybe we can go and win a derby. So I think we've seen a lot of good young pups in the last couple of months here that we can think, and even ones that we haven't seen an awful lot of, very inexperienced horses that are going to come to the fore. I mean, there've been fast runs and fast trials and huge reputations. There was a dog there you were telling me, Ian, was well back for the derby prior to making a winning debut in Shelbourne only about 3 weeks ago, was it?
No, we'll get to him.
That's
We'll get to him
yeah.
very
We'll,
shortly.
we'll get to him shortly. Get to him shortly because we'll be talking about that race. But yeah, um, the best thing about the Dundalk International, apart from the fact that like there was 2 lengths between them the whole way around, was that every single one of the 6 could and probably will, if they compete, win a heat of the derby.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably goes without saying. Each and every one of them very capable of doing so. Every single one of them very capable of going deep into the competition. And again, well done to the sponsors' time. Well done to Dundalk. By all accounts, a great day. I believe there was a huge crowd for the horses earlier in the day as well, Tommy. So a great day. Obviously, they stick to their July 12th schedule for a reason. Being where they're positioned, it's like the number one draw for those trying to get across the border.
Yeah, look at it. It's a great day. You have 8 races in Dundalk and the all weather, and then you followed by the Greyhound racing that night. I've been invited to it, Ian, every year for the last I don't know how many. I just can't with schedule at work and everything else. I just can't make it at the moment. I'd love to. I swear, I'm swearing every single year that I'll make it up there, and I will some stage. But kids are getting to that stage now; they can nearly mind themselves.
Yeah, I've been to it now a good few years. Of the last 7 or 8 years, I've been to it probably 4 or 5 times. It all depends where it sits with me. If it falls on a Thursday, Friday,
Yeah,
Saturday, I probably will miss it. But next year I'll be there because it obviously if it was on Saturday this year, it'll be Monday or Tuesday next year. So yeah, we look forward to the Dundalk International next year. And again, well done to all involved, and of course to a wonderful winner, Cheap Sandwiches. We haven't actually said an awful lot about him, but I think we've spoken about Cheap Sandwiches ad nauseum for the last 6 or 8 months. It seems every time
well,
we're on this platform, we speak about the wonderfully fast son of Burgess Books. Well done to the Bark Wahlberg syndicate. And of course to Graham Holland. It's great to see Graham challenging once again for the Dundalk International. He bypassed it for a number of years, but he's back now. And I'd suggest maybe after getting the taste for it, he may just have runners again in the very near future in the Dundalk International.
yeah. Look, we don't have to say too much about Chief Sandwiches because we're big fans of him. What he achieved, how he achieved it last year in the Irish Derby, how he got to an English Derby final again, ran his heart out despite like there were similarities between the English Derby final and his international run the other night, except for that he didn't win English Derby. He missed the kick. He got a bit of trouble, a little bit of trouble. Showed massive pace to get involved. Looked like he might even win the English Derby at one stage. So, like all the ability and all the heart is still there with Cheap Sandwiches. We know that the time the other night is inconsequential. I don't even really know what the time. I don't know what the track record is in Dundalk. I don't think it really
He's
matters sometimes.
he's a long way off it. But it was one
Oh
of
no, I
those
know that. No,
races.
I know that. Yes, 30:06 was the winning time the other night. It never looked like that. It never was that. But I would say if I was involved in it, whether it be management or sponsors or whatever, I'd be delighted with that particular renewal of the race.
Yeah. We're going to move on. Curryheen Park on Saturday night was obviously the other show in town. It was a very low key night in Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. We had lost Friday night's action, which was supposed to be the first round heats of the Time Juvenile Derby. And of course, it was left up to Curryheen Park then to fly the flag as regards top class racing outside of Dundalk. And we had the final of the Shelley Fenley Memorial. And it went to the favourite Tommy. I'm Roxanne was racing from trap four, having gone very well through the competition and showed a lovely turn of early speed, got to the front, and that was that 28.61 in warm conditions. It was a good run by a very professional daughter of Coulivanny Hoffa.
Yeah, and you know what? I have to be honest about it. Just from a personal point of view, I'd like to see the result because Mick O'Driscoll, the owner, I know him very well from Yall and from Curraheen, obviously over the years. And Mick has put a lot into it. He's always been interested in it. His daughter's involved, and they used to train a few themselves, and they'd still run a few, and then they'd have others with trainers, and they just you know they're the type of people who have put a lot into the game. Or that kind of goes hidden away under the surface, if you know what I mean. One of those band of people who are very important to the game to keep it going. More than just casual in terms of that they'd have a few dogs all along, and there's plenty of involvement in it, and always like to buy a nice breed, and so I was just delighted. Now I didn't look at Imikili Roxanne. She did a 3:20 and a career best the previous week, and I just wasn't sure. I wasn't certain that she would be able to break a lead from the draw. It was a tricky enough looking draw in the final, but she did, and showed that her run the previous week was no fluke. So again, I don't mind the clocks. Do you think it clocks to me, clocks aren't all that wildly important anyway. In many senses, it's nice when you see
This,
it
at
with a
this
young
time of the
puppy
year,
doing
they
it.
can fluctuate so much as well, because
I
it's not
think,
just the heat you have to concern about, or watering of the track. It's also air pressure. And you know yourself, some days you go out of the house, certainly over the weekend, like it was like
yeah,
someone was sitting on your shoulders. Like it's impossible sometimes to do a fast time, as it was. Did everything right in 28:61, did everything right the previous week, 28:23. So who's to say
yeah,
next week wouldn't do 28:20 again?
yeah, and ran a cracking race, and Mick would be friendly with JJ, and it's who sponsors the stake in memory of his late wife Shelley. Um, it's a great result. It was a good result for a punt or two because it was clear favourite. I thought that Hackney Tango had a chance, and probably a little bit unlucky not to get an awful lot closer, having missed the kick and got a bit of trouble. Actually ran a cracking race and defeat him, though finished fifth. But again, it was one of those races where it was keenly contested. I wrote in my preview on Saturday that I thought that it was a race that was ripe for a bit of an upset. I was kind of inferring without saying it that the outside dog, the six trap six infield Riddle, who ran a cracking race, was 10-1 outsider, could go well as well, because it just looked that type of race. It was tight in the middle, so it was nice to see McKilly Roxanne pop out and confirm the form. I'm very much somebody who likes to see form working out, even though if it was boring if it happened all the time, but it is good, and I was just delighted for connections.
Of course, trainer Adam Dunfer's never afraid to throw them in the van. And
Mm,
like, this lady has now won 7 of her last 10 starts. She's won at
yeah.
Cork, Youghal, Kilkenny, and Shelbourne Park in her last 10 starts. And it doesn't matter what track she goes to. She just seems to go up strong, runs her race. Like, she's just a remarkable record. She's a very impressive record when you look at it. This lady's far from done. She's going to win plenty more races for them.
She is, and the breed is very good. God, I'm brutal with names. I know your Keefs have had the Cunningar Spice. I
But
it feels like
Cunningar Spice at a boom time, who, if I remember rightly, was I think she was a Puppy Oaks winner at Shelbourne Park. So, like, there's pedigree there.
yeah, and I'm just looking through previous litters for Cunningar Spice. There's an Immakelly Spice in there in one litter in the first litter. There's Immakelly News in the second litter, and that just goes back to what I was saying. And then obviously, there's Immakelly Roxanne, the third litter of mixed desire to have good breeding and to give himself a chance to have good greyhounds. So it's just nice that it's worked out for him. He does invest a lot over the course of time he's been involved in the game for longer than I've been in Youghal, and that's 18 years now. So great, it's a great win for him. It really
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. No, no, that's definitely the case. We were lucky enough that our man on the ground was Barry Drake on Saturday night, and he caught up with Michael O'Driscoll and Tommy Dunford.
So we've just seen a fantastic performance here at Curraheed Park. Immakelly Roxanne shows stunning early pace to win the Shelley Fenley Memorial Open Bitch Stake final here, much to the delight of the big crowd. Let's start with the proud winning owner, Mick O'Driscoll. You've been involved in the sport for a long time. This is a huge win.
Huge win, Bar. Delighted. She's an exceptional bitch. To win this stake alone, I'm a killer man, and to win it for the Fennelly family that we knew years and years ago, and I'm delighted and great for Adam and Tommy there. They're after doing a super job with her, and I'm thrilled. I could never be as happy and thrilled.
Good, we'll come back to you. Let's say hello to Tommy Dunford, of course. Adam's name is obviously on the licence, but you work well together and you're putting in a lot of great work, and you're getting some fantastic results over the course of the last couple of years, Tommy.
Yeah, I'm delighted for Adam. He's putting in the work, and great to get a bitch like that from Mick. Just delighted, and it's just thrilled for tonight and for Mick and for Adam, and this is what it's all about.
Exactly. Look, she set the standard last week, clocking 28-23. Another big run tonight on a slow track. Phenomenal early speed. She's a real star.
Yeah, she came, ran the bend, went forward a race, and there was no stopping to her, and she got out in front. Delighted.
Yeah, good. Look, back into you, Mick. Of course, you brought a big crowd here tonight. I think everyone in the stadium was happy that she got the job done, but it was never going to be straightforward in the final tonight. She had to do everything right.
No, she had to do everything right. Look, she have lightning early. She's as genuine as the day is long. And like the six dog there, when she came at her down the back straight, she just kept on. She's the most genuine thing that you could ever get. And look, Cork, Youghal and Cork is where I grew up with dogs all over the years. and I just love the Greyhound, and it's great. And look, I'm delighted for Adam, great young fella starting out, and I'm delighted that he took the dog from me, the bitch from me from the word go, and I'm delighted for him as well.
Yeah, final word, of course. Look, you've had a couple of good ones down through the years. Did you a Lawrence finalist?
Lawrence finalist 10 years ago, yeah, Nelly's Flyer, and we nearly got there that time. And look, this one, a lovely bitch again, and look, it's great to have him every now and again. Look, we have bad ones as well, like everyone else, but it's grand when you get the good one.
Enjoy the celebrations.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks very much.
Dad.
Yeah, two very happy men there following the success of I'm a Killy Roxanne. Well done to all involved. Now, Tommy, we're going to bring you back a week because I happen to know you were at Shelbourne Park the previous Saturday night because you gave me a lift in, and it resulted in me having a drink or two after racing. I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. It's not too often I get to do that at Shelbourne Park, but it was your first time in the new Shelbourne Park, for various enough reasons. You couldn't get up in the night you were supposed to be there and whatnot. So firstly, your initial thoughts?
Well, it's great to finally get there. It felt like forever, and times I was up in Dublin and couldn't get there. It was frustrating, but yeah, it's very different, very, very almost late night pub kind of feel with the darkness inside, not the actual action or whatever, but just the whole feel. It's kind of dark throughout. Like the museum is a great addition. The restaurant, the old restaurant down beyond the tea room, beyond the museum, is done up really well. The little kind of food place that down near the cafe that stays open during the day. It's just that they're all a good addition. Everything about the inside the stand has been well thought out and really well done. And you know what? There was a decent crowd there for there was a lot of competition on with GAA and with longitude and all that sort of stuff. And I was nearly going to call it latitude. I'm getting too old for this sort of stuff. But all that sort of stuff was on. The whole city seemed to be just busy with kind of things on and draws for people. So there's a decent crowd on it. But I there's like some things haven't changed. The front of the stand and kind of it's still the same sort of atmosphere, and you're close to the bookies, which I like. And there's lots of good things about that side of it. But the whole new experience underneath it's done really, really well. And if you were going there for a night out rather than for the racing itself, for the night out with a few lads, and if you're somebody who's interested in racing, you're bringing lads who don't or haven't, wouldn't be regular Greyhound race goers, there's kind of a good place to sit, and it feels like a good pub atmosphere as well as a racing atmosphere. You can decide which one you want. There are, there are places in there. There are nooks and there are different areas in there where you can decide what type of atmosphere you want to create from the night. So, I would say it's positive. Now, I didn't know what to expect, to be quite honest about it, and I heard you all saying really good things about it. I was impressed, yeah.
Yeah, I can testify to it that you come down after the last race, and whereas there was a time the place would be empty. By the time you got down nearly after the last race, 10 or 15 minutes after the last race, now people are more likely to stay around and have a drink, and there's a lovely warm atmosphere about the place. In terms of, as you say yourself, people can find a little nook or a cranny, and it makes for a warm atmosphere. And listen, I get the sense that most people leaving the place are happy with it, and I don't even know what way we come in. Do we come in through the styles, or we come in through the corporate at the night? But like even the corporate entrance there, where it's a beautiful sort of lovely lobby area, and it just looks impressive. It looks the part, and of course even the outside, it makes such an impression to people. I was only driving by it the other night with my in-laws. I was bringing them to Peter Kay, and just drove by the front gates, and I told them to look in and look at the murals, and they were like, "Oh God, that looks interesting." You know what I mean? Even as you walk past it, you're nearly drawn in, going, "Oh, that looks like something strange and something I'd like to try."
Yeah, well, like I had my wife and kids were there as well last Saturday night, and they enjoyed it too. And I tell you what was different, especially for the likes of them. They were coming from the Cork match. There was plenty of space. If you got something to eat, there's plenty of space to sit down. There's a lot more seating than there used to be, definitely, and a lot more comfortable seating. There's a lot of effort being put into emphasis into that, which is great, because on Derby final night you won't find a seat unless you're in extremely early. But on a normal night, I'd say 99% of the year, it'll be perfectly fine. It'll be more than adequate. It's actually very good quality seating and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, that makes a difference, not for the likes of me who wants to run out and watch a race and whatever. That doesn't matter to me. But if you're there as a casual goer, I was surprised there was so much room for it, to be quite honest about it.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's get back to the racing from that Saturday night. You were there. There was some quality runs on the undercard. 3 or 4 bitches absolutely flew. But let's talk about the three finals. Firstly, Ballymac Tibet. He was a dog we've spoken of a fair bit in the past. I remember liking him in the early rounds of the Kirby Memorial. Ultimately made an earliest exit from that. Ran well in the place in England, and here he is. Just seemed to put things together. Turned closer than he has been doing. Stayed on very strongly. That's what he does. Hello, Diego came from out of the clouds to grab second, and Ballymac Jester back in third. But Ballymac Tibet, he was a 10-1 chance, and I suppose it's easy to see why. Having seen him in the previous week, you fear he's never going to turn close enough. But maybe the penny is just dropping. I think there's a lot of quality there. I think he's a dog who will stay further.
Yeah, and the Dowlings have the dogs in great form as well, and and on the night they had a particularly good night as well. But he'll definitely stay further. I mean, he turned close, as you said, he turned closer than you would normally expect him to turn, and it was kind of the writing was on the wall from that stage. Um, but it was kind of a classy performance. Now look at obviously we always refer to derbies, and I suppose if you put 29:40 on the clock, you're probably entitled to be in the picture. But like you will have to find a little bit extra in the early pace department to get involved, because most of these dogs at the top of the derby kind of markets, they don't come back to you. They fly out, they don't come back. They don't come back to you. So he'll have to find a little bit extra, but he's capable of that because we liked him. We liked him from an early stage. And again, Liam Dowling is a fella who doesn't rush them. If he's racing them himself, they take that. They're he takes time with them, and he builds towards one thing, a proper pop at a derby.
Even for his age, though, he has a good bit of experience in the sense where, like, he's been to Limerick and
Yeah.
Toastler. He started off in Tralee. Now he's at Shelbourne Park. So, like, he doesn't have an awful lot of racing under his belt, but he does have great experience. You know what I mean? And each and every time he goes to the track, he's probably picked up something from it. Like you look at his card, and the closest he's turned, like with the closest sectional, shall we say, is 3. That was the other night, and he's done it on 1 or 2 different occasions. Normally, he's coming from off the back, but the fact that he does 29:40 suggests that he certainly has the pace to be a top performer. Again, be it in the derby, I don't know, but he'll certainly be one you'd be keeping an eye on for, let's say, in the 575, 600s going forward. You could see him rocking up to a night of Stars 600 and being a big player, no question about that.
Yeah. Well, what I'd be interested in, what I'd be looking for in the next race is to see what his section is. 3:44 the other night, unhindered, and he was probably, I don't know what the section of the leader was, but it was probably a length and a half. I'd imagine looking at it, probably a length and a half better, probably 3:34, maybe even slightly better than that. So I'd be interested to see can he do a 3:40 next time. If he is, then this is the development that they want him on coming to the Derby. This is the kind of trajectory they want him on coming to the Derby, thinking that he's a bit of a player. Um, yeah, look, it's. I think his next, even though that's a lovely pot to pick up, I think it's his next run that'll actually tell a lot about him.
Well, it'll be in the opening round of the Juvenile Derby, which, whatever with the 550 yards, I'm not sure the 525 is his bag these days, but you can certainly see him going deep into the competition because it'd be hard enough to keep out of the frame, given the fact that it's a Juvenile Derby as well, and his experience in top company will stand to him. Let's get to another likely few challenging for the Juvenile Derby, and they are Ballymac Stud and Magical Major, these two dead heated in the final of the Celtic Cooling Refrigeration Air Conditioning Open Unraced 525. Finally got that name down. Get Up My Boy was third, but in behind them, colours are green, Harlequin Paul and Penny's Nugget. It was a cracking race in the end. I don't know how Magical Major got up to dead heat with Ballymac Stud. Ballymac Stud again just showed just fantastic early speed. He really is a bright young prospect. He's only November whelp. 206, 204, 205. He's made every inch in his 3 runs to date. Yes, he had to share the honours with Magical Major, who again just showed the most unbelievable engine. It was a few quid for him for the Derby before he ran his first race, and you can see why. I think his engine is absolutely not in doubt. It's just a case of whether he can get to that corner a touch faster. I suspect he probably can. I suspect he's still pretty raw.
I suspect that I suspect that all the greyhounds in that are works in progress. Um, I would like to think too that Ballymexstud is going to improve a bit as well, and even more early pace. It's not just sections, but even better early pace. He will develop in that department. Um, Magic and Major, you've been kind of raving about him for a few weeks now, and I can see why. I mean, the overall ability he has. Yeah, he'll have to start turning closer, but like how many races did he have? Three in his career,
Yeah.
three so far. I mean, I there's enough in it. There's enough dash in it for me to think that maybe he can find a bit more early pace. There's been enough spark there, you know. I mean, dogs can change at this stage. I mean, you start getting 8, 9, 10 races in, and you kind of know exactly what type of dog you have. But at this stage of his career, things can improve in that department quite markedly. But I tell you, I'm impressed with Ballymac Stud. He might be holding on to do 28, 23, but I mean, you can see if that's his third ever run. Imagine what he could do after 5 or 6.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Magical Major did have to run hard to get there. Colours of Green was a prominent position. He was sort of crowded out of it by Magical Major, but the pair did clip heels. That cost Magical Major a little bit of momentum. In the end, it was remarkable. They got back up the dead heat. Get up, my boy, Sean. Good pace down the back straight. He'll need to go up faster. He'll need to stay on stronger. And then the others, Harlequin, Paul, and Penny's Nugget. We will see Ballymac Stud in action in the Juvenile Derby. We won't see Magical Major in it, nor Magical Luca, his little brother, who has made it 7 from 7 down. Well, he's won 3 in Dundalk, and I think it's 4 now in Tralee. He's broke the track record on 3 different occasions. I would suggest maybe the Maiden Derby is their target. I assume that would probably be why they're not in the Juvenile Derby. We'll see. There's I don't know what it's called. Is it the Maiden Derby this year? It's called something anyway. But listen, 550 yards is probably what they're looking at with these dogs, rather than the 525-yard trip.
They're also likely thinking that, you know what, we've got a chance in a derby. Do we want to spoil it by going for the Juvenile Derby and forcing the way we train the Greyhound for the Derby, because you've got no other choice but to race. Oh, the Derby's upon us. What do we get, a week of freshness maybe? I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is exactly between the two. And actually, with the Juvenile Derby being pushed back a week, that's going to encroach further on the Derby, so it'll have an
Yeah,
impact
it's only leaving. It's leaving in and around a fortnight between them now,
yeah.
rather than originally it was going to be 4 weeks, then it was 3 weeks, and now it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, like it's going to force your hand a little bit more now, particularly with the delay, the 2 delays on the start of things. So it's going to force the hand a little bit. You're no longer, well, of course, it's in your hands to some degree, but you're kind of, it's doing itself. If you know what I mean, the training is doing itself in one way, but you might want to say, no. What I want to do after that competition is I want to freshen this dog up a little bit now, and then give him 2 runs, then a little break, and then the start of the Derby. And that's maybe what they think, rather than the best courses. How many rounds is the Derby for? Is it 4 for the Juvenile Derby? How many rounds?
Juvenile Derby be 4 rounds, I assume. Yeah.
Four rounds. I mean, is that the best course of action if you think you've got a genuine 550 dog? Again, it's partly down to what type of dog you have. Magical Major looks like a 550 dog, not a 525 dog. And I think if he's going to sharpen up on the with the early pace department, it'll be that little longer run to the bend that will suit him better. I could still see him, obviously, his next run being a 525, just to not, not to push him too hard too soon. But I think, if you do that, you've got a little bit of time to play with. If you don't go to the Juvenile Derby now, because if you've got Juvenile Derby and you want a Derby campaign, you're kind of going, can I do it 4 weeks in a row against pups, and can I do it then 6 weeks in a row in the Derby itself? It's a big ask.
Be interested to see what they do with him, because you're towing a fine line. Whether you want to give him more experience, but you don't want to drag it out of him too much before the Derby starts. That's if they plan on a Derby with them. Like, just given his age, they may decide not to go that route. But as we said, Tommy, you're only guaranteed one crack at one. You know what I mean?
Did you not say there was money for the dog for the Derby?
There was, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was from the connections. But we'll move on. We're going to finish up with Seven Beach, and there's not an awful lot needs to be said about him. He won the Boyle Sports Champion Stakes, another 20,000 euros to the pot, another major prize won this year following his Gold Cup Select Stakes Race of Champions victories. He's now won a Champion Stakes. Seven Beach, just a remarkable greyhound, Tommy, and a dog you have no problem talking about.
No, I've been talking about this dog forever. He feels like he's like Baco's diamond on stilts. I was just talking about him that much. He's just a joy, and even that performance the other night. I mean, he's won these four major competitions all this year. Do you know,
Yeah.
when he should have been at his peak last year, probably. Do you know what I mean? It's it's remarkable. The one thing I would say when dogs show this sort of longevity and this sort of ability at this stage of their careers, it's showing that they're really enjoying the routine they're in at home. They're really enjoying things. You cannot produce. You cannot produce unless you're on things are being done right at home and you're actually enjoying the whole experience. You can't be forced to produce these sort of performances as you get towards your fourth birthday. This dog is a testament to the O'Donnells and what a great job they're doing with the Greyhounds. He is an absolute joy. I met his owners in Shelbourne Park. I had a chat with them before the race, and there was talk that he had a minor hold up in the week before. Clearly, if it did hold him back, 28-39, and the type of performance it required to come from just behind the pace early and all that. I mean, he's a joy. I've said it before, and at the risk of repeating myself, I don't mind it when it comes to this dog. If you don't like Seven Beach, I'm sorry, but you really don't enjoy what's great about greyhound racing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just an unbelievable greyhound. Check for cash around a hell of a race in second spot, it has to be said. Lindy's Desire was
Yeah,
back in third. He's a big engine, no question about it. Ballymacdanica, slightly disappointing. She was prominent early and she finishes fourth in the end, but she had probably left her race behind her maybe in the semi-finals. She had gone flying that night. Amza, as it was, though. Seven Beach for the fourth major prize. He won't be 4 years of age until 2 days after the Derby final. One wonders, will he be doing it as a Derby final, turning 4 years of age, or Derby winner, should I say?
yeah.
It's probably a year too late with him, but there's no question he's entitled to go very well in the blue ribbon.
He definitely is, but can he continue to hold his form that well? I hope he can. I hope he can for everybody's sake, and for greyhound racing's sake, because he's become a bit of a talking dog in terms of just what he's achieving. Check for cash. You're dead right. Must be given huge credit for that effort. Lenny's Desire. It was funny on the night. It was just a few dogs that just didn't get going early whatsoever, and he
Mm.
was just one of those. Didn't get going early. Showed massive pace. And Ballymacdanica, yeah, look, she was positioned to probably win the race, you thought, and especially with the kind of some degree of knowledge or otherwise that there was a slight hold up with Seven Beach. You're kind of thinking that maybe position Ballymacdanica is in should be hard to beat, and it just didn't work out. Just didn't produce her best. Faye Point Harvey was a shade disappointing because he didn't break, but that was the end of his race.
That's it.
I actually thought that maybe he might be able to break along the inside and actually get a run early and have a real say in it. But once that didn't happen, it was all over for him. But I would say Lenny's Desire ran better than he was never competitive, but he ran better than it might suggest. And actually, just on Paul Hennessy's dogs, the top colours are green. When a dog changes kennel and then runs the following week, sometimes you can just leave a mark, settling
Yeah.
in and all that. It can often be the second run before you feel the impact of the change. So I wouldn't be reading too much into Colours of Greens running the final of the unraced day, but I think there's plenty more to come there.
The delay to the start of the Juvenile Derby may well suit that dog. Just give him an extra week or two
Yeah,
in his new surroundings, and you'd imagine that we'll see more of the dog we saw in the semi-finals of that competition
yeah,
rather than the final. Yeah, getting by.
yeah.
That's it, Tommy. We've covered a fair bit of ground there on this
Mm.
Monday evening. It's still glorious here in Dublin. Not quite as glorious as it was over Friday and Saturday night. When I first got the text on Friday morning that we were done at Shelbourne Park, I was like, "But that's ridiculous. There's nothing wrong. It was warmer yesterday and Thursday." And then Friday evening, as I'm sitting there in my house, front door open, back door open, windows open, going, "For the love of God, someone get the sun out of my house." And I realised it was the right call. It was unbelievable in Dublin on Friday and Saturday. It was
It,
just uncomfortable. Thankfully, around 6 o'clock on Saturday evening, they made the right call to push it back to half 8. And it just dropped that 3 or 4 degrees. It was beautiful on Saturday night, with perfect racing conditions. But no, Friday night, I'm afraid it
well,
just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be. But we look forward to the Time Juvenile Derby opening round coming up this weekend. Anything to add, Tommy, before we go?
I'm obviously struggling here with the sun coming in the side of the house, and it's been rain. It rained most of the night, or rained a
Yeah.
few times. I was awake during the night. It was raining down here, but actually the sun now is out again, and it's a glorious day. Good decisions were made. That's the reality of it. Good decisions were made. The right decisions were made for the welfare of the greyhounds. And it's not just being kennelled up for a couple of hours or whatever and racing in the heat, but it's also the travelling and all that sort of stuff. So given the little bit of extra time, I think there's only 3 meetings went to a head on Saturday night. compared on Saturday, compared to a whole program that normally goes on. So good decisions were made, right decisions were made. Some people will be frustrated by it. That's fine. But you're right, the temperatures were absolutely insane. I mean, I'm like you, trying to open. We have a kind of a corridor here to my right that leads. There's a stair, but it leads out to the front door, and we're trying to draw wind through it just to cool us down here because the heat is savage. But long may that last, but maybe not impact the greyhound racing so much.
Yeah, my thanks to Tommy Lyons down in Costa del Yall. I'm here in Dublin, suffering still with the heat. I'm going to be opening my office door now in a moment. The window's already open, but get out, enjoy the sunshine, and that's it from us on Talking Dogs on Monday. We'll see you a week from now. Good luck, good evening, God bless.
This podcast was brought to you by Greyhound Racing Ireland.